In today's fast-paced world, where demands are constantly increasing and expectations are higher than ever, it's easy to feel overwhelmed, stuck, or unsure about how to reach your full potential. But fear not, this podcast is specifically designed to equip you with the mindset, strategies, and insights needed to excel in every area of your life. Together, we're going to unlock the secrets of high performance and embark on a transformational journey towards living our best life. Let's dive in. Welcome to the High Performers Podcast. Rob Cressy, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me. Super excited to be here.
So we met on the internet on Facebook because we both have an interest in AI.
Yes, indeed. It's something that it's changing the world.
So that's not all you do though. So one of the questions I like to ask at the very beginning is, what do you tell people when they ask you, what do you do for a living?
So I'm a creator's coach, and what that means is I help successful entrepreneurs and business leaders create growth in their life. And there's three areas that I specialize in. One is personal growth and self-mastery. Two, podcast and content creation. And three, chat GPT and AI. And I'm a champion for all the ways and things that you would love to create in your life.
Very good. So how does that play out as far as, I love that there are those three different, is that like three different courses?
Well, yeah, it'd be three different areas of focus. And yes, I've got programs around each of them, but the manifestation of it was really, it's how I created myself as a high performer and as an entrepreneur. Over a decade ago, my dream was to get paid to talk about sports for a living. So I taught myself podcasting and being a host and being on camera and social media marketing and brand building. And eventually people said, Rob, how do I do that? So I created a program to help people turn their ideas and knowledge into podcasts. And when you live like a coach for a decade and you go all in on personal growth and development, whether it's podcasts, books, entrepreneurship, coaching programs, all of that stuff, I did that because I was not always this person. And that's what entrepreneurship requires from you, is constantly getting better. So I went from someone who was not self-aware and did not have a growth mindset pre-entrepreneurship to going to zero, being all in on my dreams, and all of a sudden becoming self-aware, creating a growth mindset, learning how to read books, do that for a decade. And people said, hey, Rob, I like the way that you live and that you're framing your mindset for success and inner growth and outer growth. Can you coach me on how to do that? And I was like, all right, sure, I'll do that. I've never seen myself as a coach, but I lived like a coach. And then chat GPT and AI come out, and immediately I'm like, I'm all in. This is going to change the world. And good thing for me, I already had a background in creating coaching programs, in being a coach. So I can help people learn how to leverage it to create the results that they want in their life.
I love it. So let's go back to, you talked a lot about like how entrepreneurship and the self-development has helped you grow and change. Let's talk about before entrepreneurship. What were you doing?
Before entrepreneurship, I spent a decade in digital advertising sales on the publisher side. And the way I like to frame that is slinging banner ads and text links. And this is back in the day. And it's really pre-cell phones or the rise of it, because back in the day when you went to a publisher website, there's banner ads all over the place monetizing it. And then they've got newsletters and they've got a variety of ways that they monetize and generate revenue. And for the largest time, that was the model for a lot of publishers. And I did that for a decade, and I was very, very good at it, and I made very good money. But I didn't wake up every single day looking forward to slinging banner ads and text links. And I got to the point where I said I would regret it for the rest of my life if I didn't give it a shot at making my dreams happen, because I knew I belonged and I had to know. And for me, the bigger risk was not taking the risk.
Oh yeah, that's the really big one. You know, that's what they talk about as people at the end of their life. It's the stuff that they, regret that they didn't do. Not the stuff that they did that were mistakes. It's the stuff that they didn't do.
And I'm not willing to live that way, because if I had only ... man, those are some scary words. If you sit there and, oh man, and you allow the reasons why not to do something, I don't get down that way. And I lived a decade of my life as someone who is trading my time for money. But once entrepreneurship once I went all in on that, there was no looking back. I burned the ships and I was all in.
Yeah, I love burning the ships. That's one of my favorite concepts. So maybe, just take that massive action and then you're committed and then, figure it out from there. So let's go back to whenever you first left like W-2 land, so to speak. What was the very first thing you did and was it successful?
Well, the very first thing that I did is I started a company called Bacon Sports, and we created original sports comedy content. So when I looked at the sports media landscape, I knew I belonged because everything that I saw was unoriginal, it was aggregated, and I knew I could do better than that. And because of that, I set out to create original sports content that was both knowledgeable and entertaining. And we were amazing at that. We did that for 3 years full time, creating thousands of articles, videos, and podcasts and events. But here was the challenge in that business. I came from the publisher model. So I knew what was happening from monetization standpoint, that publishers were monetizing via banner advertising and that industry was going the other direction. So I built it on a model that was not supported by advertising. Problem in that is, how do you create a publisher website that generates revenue when you are not doing the number one monetization method? And that's what eventually evolved into us turning Bacon Sports into a sports content studio, helping brands market to sports fans by creating fun and engaging content.
That's awesome. Talk about whenever the market changed. So you were going along and things started changing and you started your own. Talk about whenever markets change and what you need to do.
Well, one, it'll be vision. You need your ability to see what is changing in the market. So for me on the ad sales side of things, I noticed a few things. Ad inventory was changing. The internet was going from desktop to mobile. And why that was of note is because for publishers, it was a lot easier to monetize desktop advertising than it was mobile advertising, because mobile doesn't have the same digital real estate that is happening there. The second thing that was happening was publishers oftentimes sold inventory based on a demographic that they can speak to. But then a thing called, it was like an aggregation model where these massive publishers would say, oh, well, we have relationships with publishers across the entire internet, these ad aggregators. So now it no longer mattered that you could sell to a demographic because you could buy that demographic anywhere. And I saw that writing on the wall. And I was like, so you're telling me the inventory is going down, the way that we sell is no longer unique. And because of both of those things, the price that a publisher could charge was also going down, inventory down, exclusivity down, and rates down. I was like, this is going in the wrong direction. And a lot of people will attempt to ride out the ship. And for me, I got out while things were still good. And it's been a blessing throughout my entire business career to be forward thinking and see what's happening in an industry. And I'm not romantic about how I get my results. And that was one of those cases. So once I jumped into the sports industry, even though I didn't have the answer around monetization, I knew that I knew what I knew, and everybody else in the industry didn't see it. And little did I know, a decade later, it would be a blessing in disguise, because the pandemic hit. And at no point in Entrepreneurship 101 do they say, you will spend a decade of your life building your dreams and then you will wake up one day and sports doesn't exist. But guess what? That was the reality that I woke up to one day. March Madness canceled. NBA canceled. Sports everywhere canceled. And the entire sports industry, poof, went away just like this. And people working at sports media publishers, not only did they get laid off, but the jobs that they would then try and get that they would replace them with, those no longer exist anymore either. So for me, I saw all of that, the writing on the wall, and to me, it made more sense to build my own company than it did to try and go work in sports for somebody else, because I wanted to be in control of my destiny, not at the hand of anybody else. And as we speak, ESPN just did a massive round of layoffs to some very high profile talent. And to me, I've always seen the writing on the wall for the entire media industry. It didn't mean that it was easy for me, but it meant that I saw the writing on the wall.
It's amazing to be able to look into the future and say, and do, like you said, to have that vision and really make the changes with the market. So what would you say in your business now? Yeah, that's the most important thing, right? Being at the merger of whenever markets change in technology. And I mean, it sounds like you're really at the crosshairs of whenever markets changing in technology and getting ahead, actually. So how did that turn out for you as far as COVID coming through it, changing? How did it turn out as far as this is your chance to kind of like, I want to get into like what you're doing now and kind of like bragging a little bit about numbers. I joke and say bragging, but be honest, I don't like people being too humble. Let's talk about some numbers of you.
Yeah, so it was a blessing for me in disguise, COVID, because I had an opportunity. I could die like the rest of the sports industry because it was, let's call it a year of just sports not being there. So I can die like the rest of the industry, or I can do something about this. And through all of this, like I'd mentioned at the beginning, I've lived like a coach for more than a decade. I was even hired as a high performance coach for sales teams without even having a website. The CEO just saw the way that I lived on Instagram. And the next thing you know, I'm building out a program for a sales team for an agency in New York. And there was a calling there for me. And I had an opportunity and I sat there and I was like, all right, well, are you going to die like the rest of the sports industry and say, why in the world is this happening to me? Or are you going to step into what is your true calling and really help other people? And I had never built the brand of Rob Cressy, where I was always known as the bacon sports guy or Rob the sports guy. And I'd had clients that were not in the sports industry on helping them launch podcasts. I had clients where I was helping them with their sales teams in coaching, but I'd never had a dedicated website or an offering. What I'd never actually done is built out a destination for my brand in the way that I help people who are not in the sports industry. So that's when COVID hits and I built out robcressy.com around Rob, the coach, the creator's coach who helps people with their personal growth and development, their self-mastery, lifestyle design, the story that you're telling yourself. Because one of the things that I learned, and I love how circular this conversation is becoming, is in my old life, in my W-2, I did not live a holistic life. I did not fill up all the buckets. I was someone who was a work hard, play hard, ad sales party bro, where I lived for the weekends, I traded my time for money, and I was not filling up all of the buckets. I was filling up the money, the fun, and the business bucket. And relationships suffered. My health wasn't the best that it could have been. I was living fast and hard. And now fast forward to what I'd learned in entrepreneurship, and I realized something. So many, air quotes, successful people measure their success by only one bucket of their life, business or money, but they didn't fill up all of the buckets. And I had come to that realization and actualization in transforming myself as that person. And in the process, I learned a lot about how to design your best self because I wasn't always this person. And quite frankly, I was the opposite of this. So I went ahead, built out a coaching program, multiple coaching programs, my website, and the branding all around Rob Cressy, the creator's coach, helping people become the best version of themselves. And it's something that when I look at the journey that I've had, that yes, working in sports was a dream of mine, but I get so much more fulfillment out of helping other people. And to me, that is the biggest gift in the world.
Perfect. What's happening? So what's happening in your business right now?
Right now is so exciting in two different ways. So over the last 3 years, being a full-time coach and speaker and creator has been amazing because I get to experience co-creating with other high-performing business owners and helping them become the best version of their self in all their buckets of their life. But here comes ChatGPT and AI. And I think back to it's November and it's the very first week that it comes out and I'm on the beta. And within the first minute of me using ChatGPT, I was like, I feel like I'm using the internet for the first time. Immediately, I'm all in. I'm like, this is going to change the world. Once again, using my vision, I see where this is going and started a company called GPT Leaders, which is a ChatGPT and AI consulting and strategy company. And we got two sides to what we do. We got the B2C side where we are working with entrepreneurs, coaches, and business leaders in helping them leverage ChatGPT like a pro for efficiency, effectiveness, and business growth. Because so many of them see this tool but don't know what to do. But once you understand how you can leverage this, the world goes from black and white to color. And it's a very generic way of me saying this. We built a community around this from a B2C side of things. And then on the B2B side of things, we're building out AI tech, where we are working with forward-thinking companies who say, we want to build out AI products, and we've got a team that does it.
Man, I love that. That is really forward thinking. So exactly what you just said. As soon as I used ChatGPT, I was like, this is when I first found Twitter, like 2007, I think. I was trying to give my my mentor and into it, and I was like, "Hey, man, there's this thing." They were like, "This is ridiculous. We're not getting on any internet or MySpace or," and I dug right in on it, and it was expanding my mind. Like, this is crazy. You can really reach out and reach out a lot of people and get this message and this marketing out. And ChatGPT is doing the same thing, but it's instead of upping the reach, now it's upping the actual creation. So you can speed up your iterations of creation and get more content out quick.
100%. Because you think about what stops people. Number one, I don't know how to, ... Number two, and it's probably number one, or as Tim Grover says in Relentless, everything's labeled number one. It is time. Oh, Rob, Alex, I just don't have enough time. I am so busy. I'm overwhelmed. I'll get to it someday. I'll get to it later. Sound familiar? And Alex, one of the things that makes me sort of chuckle is we've been given arguably the most powerful tool in the history of mankind for $20 a month that by design helps you save and create more time for yourself. And the excuse for people who aren't using it is, I don't have enough time. And I sit here and I'm like, you're telling me you don't have enough time for the thing that helps you create more time. And I'm a champion for everyone, but if that's how you're going to live, I can't help you, because I am for people who say, you know what? I want all the goodness that comes from this.
That's really inspiring that people can use it. It's not just coaching on, hey, here's a specific skill. I can teach you a skill, but that's not coaching.
100%. And for me, it comes down to one thing: systems and processes. What is your system and process for? Insert whatever it is. And this is uniform across the board for everything that I do. All right, you want to launch a podcast? Cool. Tell me what your process is to publish one episode or 1,000 episodes. One of the things that I coach on, I call one perfect podcast. How have I published thousands of episodes? By doing the same process thousands of times. And most people, where they fail or are challenged in this, is they don't have a repeatable system. Then we move to the personal growth side of things. And one of the biggest things that people are challenged by is negative self-talk, where you can be very successful and you can make a lot of money, but you can still talk very poorly to yourself. And that will then manifest itself in the actions you take and the results you create, or a lack thereof. So if you're having a bad day or a challenging moment, what I say is, all right, what is your process for what you do when a challenging thing happens? And or what is your process for designing a powerful story that serves you? What are you talking about, Rob? Wait, you're telling me you don't design the story that you're telling yourself? Because the story you tell yourself creates your actions create your results. Therefore, if we work backwards, you start with the vision of what you want to create. From there, you say, all right, what are the actions that I take? The actions that I take start with, who am I and what is the story that I tell myself? And then the last thing becomes ChatGPT and AI. Sure, you can just go on there and type anything, but from a scalability standpoint as a business owner, what is your system and process? Because I truly believe there are millions and billions of dollars at the ability for us to ask ChatGPT the right questions. And what separates me from the overwhelming majority of the world, when I use ChatGPT for the first time, everyone's like, oh my God, I can write a blog post that sounds like Daffy Duck. I'm like, how do I turn $1 into $1.50? I literally see it from a lens of business growth. Because of that, I think in systems and processes, because systems and processes scale. So whether it's creating a podcast, using ChatGPT, or designing your positive self-talk, what is your system and process? One of the reasons why I'm qualified as a coach is because I have struggled with or am challenged by a lot of things, and I've experienced them. That being said, I have also created the perspectives, the ways of being, the actions for how I can create the thing that I want that is not that. So it's very relatable because, once again, I never set out to become a coach. Remember, my dream was to talk about sports for a living, except I lived like a coach for 10 years. So I know what it's like to not live like this. I know what it's like to have negative self-talk or not go to the gym or party a ton and not fill up all of the buckets of your life. So the way that I overcome negative self-talk, which happens on a regular basis, like daily basis, because we all have it, becomes a very simple process. Number one, it is awareness. All right, when I notice my self-talk being negative, it's like, what's going on with that? Because one of my core values is radiate positivity. And if something is not serving me, boom, a little trigger comes up. It's like, hey, Rob, what's up with this thing? And I'm like, yeah, what is this thing? So once I'm aware of it, then you say, well, what do I do now? And I have a myriad of things that I do. There's a good book by Trevor Moawad called Getting to Neutral. A lot of people think that if you have negative self-talk, that you immediately have to be like, oh my God, I'm the best in the world. Everything is good. I'm not going to be thinking about that thing. Sure, that's one option, but something that's a little bit easier and more sustainable becomes getting to neutral. Instead of living in the negative story, which we'll call a -1, how about we just get to 0, meaning neutral thinking? We are no longer thinking about the negative thing. So I like to think of it as positive mindset is 1, or a positive thought is 1, neutral is 0, and a negative thought or negative mindset is -1. All right. Anytime you notice yourself at -1, let's just get to 0, because then you're no longer living in the negative. You want to live in the 0 to 1 all the time. At the same time, the biggest thing that is foundational to who I am are my I am declarations that I speak every single morning, a series of statements that declare who I am, where I speak them, I see them, I feel them every single day. I am infinite love. And I sit there and I envision my 20-month-old son and my wife, and I think about, man, I love them so much. And I think about how much I love myself and how much I just love the opportunity that I get to speak to Alex today. And I'm like, and I'm just radiating this love. And then I sit there and I'm like, I am a force of attraction, and I visualize myself as this diamond that is just gleaming. And I say, I'm attracting the right people and the right opportunities, and I'm attracting money and serendipities and synchronicities into my life. Feel myself glowing, and boom, I lock that in. And those are anchors of my truth of who I am, because life is going to shoot arrows at us the second we turn on the TV, our computer, or our phone. So are you going to allow somebody else's story and agenda to bleed into your mind, or are you going to create that powerful truth for yourself? And with that powerful truth, it gives you more power and ownership over who you are. So when the inevitable negative thoughts and mindsets come in and you're aware of them, you're like, yeah, this sucks right now, but I actually know that the real truth of me is I am infinite love, so I'm not going to give that any power. One of my favorite books is The Power of Consistency by Weldon Long. And one of the things he said is the reason that most people don't accomplish their dreams is because they just don't spend enough time thinking about their dreams. The average person, once a year, they look at their life and they create a New Year's resolution, and a week later, they don't think about it again. But the best people in the world, they do that once a month. The elite of the elite, the world class, we do it every single day. Power of consistency. This is my vision. This is my vision. I just did a post about this yesterday. So many people hear, oh, visualization, that's something that you should do. But then comes the same, how do I do it? Where do I find the time? I don't know what I'm doing. Is this thing working? So I sit there and I'm like, let's make this simple. Power of intention, power of awareness, power of consistency. The intention, cool. My intention is I want to add a habit of visualization into my life because I believe in the power of seeing where I'm going. And then step two, the awareness of it. All right, how often am I seeing the seeing of where I'm going? And then number three becomes consistency. All right, now that I see where I'm going, how often and what is my process for when I do it? And for me, it's nice and simple. And so often people overcomplicate these things. Doesn't have to be hard, be simple. 5 times a day, I visualize. Once in the morning during my morning routine, I open up a document that has listed my vision. I wrote it down, and there's an image that I created for my vision board. Then on my watch at 9 a.m., 1 p.m., and 4 p.m. every single day, an alarm goes off where I just use that as an opportunity for 5 seconds to think about something on my vision board. Boom, got it anchored in. And then as I end my day, I sit there and I say, all right, well, I'm about to be dreaming for the next 7 hours. I might as well look at my vision board one more time to anchor that in. 5 times a day, every single day for a year, for 5 years, for a decade. How do you think that is going to work? Because people fail at the power of consistency. And for me, this is about lifestyle design, that this becomes effortless when it is who you are. Because I love all of this. I'm not sitting there being like, oh my God, I can't believe I have to look at my vision board and all the dreams that I want to create for myself and my family. No, start stacking more of the things that you want in your life so that it is not hard. We're not talking about dialing for dollars. We're talking about making your dreams happen. So you create these systems and these processes that are aligned to who you are and what you want to create in your life. And you make it effortless because it's who you are. And that's where the power of consistency comes in. Number one, no one is going to be more of a champion for you than you. So let's just start with that. On top of, you are accountable for every single aspect of your life. So if you don't like something, it is up to you to create it or change it. And that is also true with the identity that you create for yourself. And if you have the ability to create yourself into anything that you want, who would you be and what would you do? Well, when you come from that premise, anything is possible. But Rob, what if you don't believe it? That's the thing that people hear, affirmations. And for me, there's a difference. Affirmations versus declarations. Affirmations, while good, hey, there's good that can come from looking into a mirror and being like, I'm going to make $1 million. I'm going to make $1 million. Why? Because it's way better than what the rest of the world is spitting at us of you're not enough, fear, judgment, self-limiting belief. I get it. However, there is more power accessible to you because a lot of people say, you know what? I just don't feel it. And that is the key. So with declarations, I want you to envision yourself like you're standing on top of the mountain and you're like, I am fearless. Rah! Boom. You are declaring this. You're taking ownership and capturing the power. This is who I am. And you have the ability to do that at any point. And what you then do is you create a process where you speak it and then you see it and you think about a time in your life in which you were fearless. So in my instance, when I speak, I was at an event that David Goggins was speaking at. And he said, why would you waste a single second on fear? And I was like, I'm grabbing that. That makes complete sense. So I'm like, I am fearless. And I hear Goggins and he's like, why would you waste a single second on fear? And then I heard a quote from Michael Jordan that essentially said, I know the work that I put in. I'm fearless. And I was like, yeah, I'm grabbing that too, because I know the work that I've put in. And then the third thing is I think about my 20-month-old son and how I'm a mirror for him. And I'm like, do I really want to raise him in a way where I'm living in fear and I'm projecting that onto him? There is no way. So boom, I see and speak and experience all of those things. So I create that identity for myself. And I'm not fooling myself that I didn't put in the work, or that I'm not wasting a single second on fear, or that I'm not a mirror for my son. All of those are 100% true. So boom, I lock that in. Well, if you can do that for fearlessness, what are the other things? And so many people miss the opportunity to get a positive drip. So for example, I am abundantly generous and I am a giver. So when I go and order pizza and pick it up and they give you the opportunity for a tip, every time I put a tip, I'm like, boom, I'm abundantly generous and I'm a giver, because it creates who I am by collecting the evidence of who I am. So now you have the ability to design the story that you tell yourself. You create a process every single day. You speak, see, and feel it. And what do you think happens if you do this every single day, where you speak, I am fearless, I am infinite love, I'm abundantly generous, whatever it is for you? What do you think you're going to be like the rest of your day when that is how you start your day? This is what high performance is. People wonder, how do you get to this point? What do you do? It is a series of small habits, routines, mindsets, and ways of being that we stack one by one by one by one by one every single day. And we do it with consistency. And we do it because this creates us into the best version of ourselves. Because what do you think Rob showing up as fearless, abundantly generous, and infinite love does for my ability to be a world-class coach, to attract new clients into my world, to be a positive force for good where others want to be around me? All of these things, the actions that I take, all stem from the story that I tell myself. Because we know not doing this means you are allowing the world to control and design your thoughts and your identity. And this is the way the majority of the people live. And quite frankly, Alex, this is a 1% of 1% conversation that we're having right now. And it's very common and natural for you and I, but this is not the way the majority of the world operates or lives like. And quite frankly, they can't even have this conversation because they don't even understand the depths of this. And for me, this is effortless. It's full of love. It is full of power. There is no way I would ever not live this way, because it creates everything that I want in my life. And then when I work with clients, we do the exact same thing together. We're creating these systems and processes to help them design the ideal version of themselves in all areas of their life, from their mindset to their fitness, to their family, to doing more of the things that they love, to living holistically. The world tells us that the metric of success is open up your bank account. But the problem becomes there's a lot of people who are unhappy and who don't like their jobs, who trade their time for money. And I was that person for a decade. And you get to a point where you say, wait a second, all the money in the world is not bringing me fulfillment and happiness. And I have never actually put myself first or invested in myself. And this is the game changer of all game changers. It's where your world goes from black and white to color, because you can't even see what you can't see, because you don't even know that these layers even exist. because you've never thought this way. You've never experienced this. And this is something that is both immediate. Your results become instantaneous, and they also take a lifetime, because every single day, and Alex, you identified this, we don't do our declarations today, maybe tomorrow, and then the next day. And then all of a sudden you get in an argument with your wife and you're like, why did that happen? You're like, what changed in my life? And you're like, oh my God, I am not designing and creating myself and my self-talk. And am I working out or not? All of these things add up to living a fulfilled, joyful, harmonious life. And for me, a quote that changed my life: live by design, not by default. If you want to trade your time for money, that's 100% cool, as long as that's the design that you want for yourself. But if you're spending 8 to 10 hours a day unhappy, but you're like, yeah, but look at this money, is it really worth it? Because you don't want to get to the end of the road and go back to the beginning of our conversation, Alex, and say, if I had only, or man, I really wish I would have invested in myself and my personal growth and development, because this is all around being better today and in this moment, as well as in the future. It is literally the gift that keeps on giving, because it's filled with love and everything you want in your life. It's infinite ROI. And I am saying this both as someone like you, Alex, who has invested significant money in my own personal growth and development. And I'm also saying this as the coach who knows the results that are there for you. And it's like, imagine putting an ROI on having a more loving and harmonious relationship with your wife or your children. Do you think that's worth it? Like, what would you pay for every day for you to be so in love with your partner? You'd be like, that's priceless. Right. So, well, what about your health and fitness? If every single day you woke up, you looked in the mirror and you're like, man, I just love the way that I feel right now. I've got this vitality and this energy. That's priceless. Your ability to identify your negative self-talk, or have a lot less negative self-talk because you've designed yourself to have so many more positive inputs. But when it does come, you're chopping that off right away. So now you're happier all the time. What is the ROI on that? And what about living a more fulfilled life where you look back and there's a richness to what you do, not an empty and hollow and shallowness? And for me, it is the gift that keeps on giving, where I'm so hungry to grow. And Ed Milet's got a great quote called blissful dissatisfaction. I'm both happy and dissatisfied at the same time. It just so happens that it's 99% happy, 1% dissatisfied, because I know there's so much more available to me. So when I look at investing in myself on the financial side of things, a lot of that's about commitment. Free attracts free. And you can learn a ton versus free stuff. I do on podcasts and books. You can get a library book or listen to podcasts like this. Boom, it's great. For the first decade of this journey for me, those were my mentors. And I learned from them and I implemented them. Once I got some money, now I started to work with these coaches one-on-one or in their group coaching programs. And you feel the energy by being around other like-minded people. And Alex, here's the crazy thing. And maybe it's not so crazy because of how you and I met. My best friends in my life right now are all people who are part of coaching programs that we have all paid to be a part of. Why? Because we are all aligned in our values and where we are going. It doesn't mean that my old friends are bad. It just means there's a different bucket for them, because I'm on a different level and I'm around other people who are doing amazing things, helping amazing people on fire for their lives. You know why that is? It's one word: commitment. It's a lot easier to not be committed when you're not paying anything. Whatever, I won't show up today. No one's gonna. But you drop 10 grand for something, all of a sudden you're like, you know what? I think I'm gonna show up for this, because there's a bunch of other people who dropped 10 grand to be a part of this thing too. And now there's a different energy and expectation in the way that you show up. And God forbid you show up as the best of the people who dropped 10 grand. Now we're cooking with gas.
Man, that's amazing. I hadn't really even thought about that, but I have the same situation, that the people that I would say that I talk to the most, that I'm closest to, are the other people in the other paid groups.
And those are the people that I turn to. And those are the people that turn to me for advice. And those are the people that turn to me with deals and for deals and with money and for money. It's exactly those same people you're talking about that are in that group, aligned with the same goal you have. Before we get off, can we talk a little bit about how do people get in touch with you? How do people reach out and talk to you?
If there's anything that I spoke about, whether it's the personal growth and the designing your identity and living by design, you can go to robcressy.com or hit me up on LinkedIn, Facebook, or Instagram at Rob Cressy. I also host a podcast called Built for the Game, which helps you win in business and life for the long haul so you can thrive in any situation. And if you're someone who's interested in leveling up with ChatGPT and learning how to integrate that into your business, we run a company, gptleaders.com. We are world class, best in the world at what we do for ChatGPT and AI education for entrepreneurs, business leaders, creators, coaches. That's gptleaders.com.
Awesome. All right. Well, I have one final question I always ask everybody at the end. And we have to use our imagination a minute. So just imagine that this is the end. This is it. This is the last time anybody's ever going to hear from Rob Cressy. What is your message to the world?
I believe in you and I love you. When I look at my journey, one of, if not the biggest anchors has been my belief in myself, in my ability to do anything that I set my mind to. And at the same time, having somebody else out there let you know that they believe in you too, that they feel you on your journey, that you know what? The fears, the judgments, the self-limiting beliefs, the obstacles, I feel them, Alex feels them. And you know what? We believe in you. You can do this. And I also say, I love you, because when you come from love, anything is possible. And for me, love is core and central to who I am, how I create, and who I am as a coach. So I just want to send some of that positive energy your way.
Man, well, I second all that. We believe in you and we love you. So from Rob Cressy, me, Alex Alexander, the High Performers Podcast. Love y'all.